Okay, today we'll be talking a very important subject, perfection of life and mind through catching your thoughts. And also go through thought process too. I don't really need this. I don't know how to get it out, but that's all right. Okay. Einstein, the latter part of his life, um, making remarks about his view on life. Said, our situation on this earth seems strange. Every one of us appear here involuntarily and uninvited for a short stay without knowing why. To me, it's enough to wonder at the secrets. So he did not break the code even to the end of his life. So His Holiness, the 14th Dalai Lama, um, stated that the purpose of life is to be happy and to be fulfilled. Might not answer it, but that's a general remarks that everyone has the same goal. And he also made a remarks at one of the meeting with his audience. It was recorded that Western psychology is comparable to kindergarten when you compare to Buddhism, which is very advanced psychology. Why is it so? The Buddha discovered, I think Eastern philosophy discovered that human being is an advanced being capable of training oneself to perfection. And there's evidence that people who succeed, there's a physical change like the top left, that's the Buddhist relics. After he died, was cremated. His bone turned into like round spheres there. And in the middle, the top is like the blood vessels of his, and some more of his relics in different form from different parts of the body. And lower left is from my collection. The first top left is from Lama Sopa Rinpoche. He, he, he had a collection and he came to tour around the world, especially in the U.S. in around 1994, came to our temple. That's what I took a picture of those Buddhist relics. There's some other major principal disciples' relics as well, but I didn't have it in there. And the lower left is from my collection that I got it from my friend, but originally it's from passed away monks in Thailand at Wat Sutat when I tried to retrieve where it came from. And probably an enlightened being. Used to be like a grain of rice, white one. 4 of them, it turned to 5 crystalline, like gems, like that, different colors by itself after that for over 20 years. It's been like this for over 10 years now, without my knowing until one day I found out. Very strange. So Buddhism is about learning life. This is, you can practice to see your life through the 4 foundations of mindfulness we just did. Self-observation, self-monitoring of your body, feeling, mind, mental phenomena. So basically you monitor your own life, seeing your life, seeing your body and mind, how it interact. It's a lifelong learning concept. So it's summed up in the Threefold training of core Buddhism. First one is avoid doing bad deed through morality. Second, to do good deed through being good, as well as mental concentration, to gain mental strength. But that alone won't get you to nirvana. You have to do the third leg, which is purify your mind through insight meditation, to gain wisdom through seeing the true nature of things, that things are impermanent, imperfect, and selfless in nature, unstable, unbearable, uncontrollable. All things in the universe follow that three universal mark of existence. When you see and realize that, you get your breakthrough with your wisdom, because you become selfless in that sense. So this concept of lifelong learning antedate the lifelong learning concept that just came about 100 years ago. So it's antedate that by 2,500 years. Some animals are trainable, yet incapable of training themselves. You can see, you can train horse, dog, cats, birds, and so on. Different animals, you can train them. But animal and human, the difference there. First one, human seems to be unique in one specific way. We are probably the only animal that deliberately train, meaning we exercise intentionally for the purpose of improving strength, endurance, and fitness. You see this a lot this week on Winter Olympic, the Olympians. They train not for survival or immediate needs. This idea appears in scientific discussion, where contributions noted that animals may engage in strenuous play or activity, but not with the conscious goal of improving fitness. Well, a human being doing that for a piece of metal in different colors. And they work so hard for that, spend their life to get to that goal. So second is, other animals can be trained and do gain fitness. They just do not train themselves into a full fitness by that. For example, many animals naturally maintain high fitness because their daily lives require it, like to flee from predator or try to hunt. But they are not voluntarily running laps or doing strength work for self-improvement. And thirdly, some animals do not need training at all, while animals often stay near peak fitness simply through daily survival activities. Even lazy animals and so on still maintain surprisingly physical ability without deliberate exercise, because they have to keep up with that, otherwise they may be hunted down as well. In Buddhism, there's some uniqueness because we make a distinction between conventional truth versus ultimate truth. Say, would you say, how much is this pedigree dog would cost, or value at? Probably $500. But they said this is it costs $150,500 because the jewelry he was wearing make him cost more. But that's to the dog. You think how much it's worth to him? Nothing. It's not edible. So ultimate truth is something that this is our conventional value, and we cling to that. Okay, that's why we suffer. That's called worldly phenomena in Buddhism. Positive side that we like and negative side that we dislike. First pair is fortune or gain versus misfortune. Fame, promotion, obscurity or demotion is the negative side. Praise or gossips. Happiness versus unhappiness. You see that a lot in the Winter Olympics this week. Like they got fame, they got their gold medal, they were very happy, being praised and so on. They lost, they feel sad, unhappy, feel like lost their previous goal that they have to defend but didn't get that goal. This is our conceptual perception, but we work so hard for it. Amazingly, not only one, there's a team of people, different nationality. Like tomorrow will be hockey between U.S. and Canada. And you might want to keep watching. The conceptual world phenomena. So why we meditate? Because we suffer our own biased thoughts, our own thoughts that was embedded with greed-headed delusion. But that's not the true nature of the mind. The Buddha stated mind is luminous, but tainted with transitory mental impurities. Transitory, very important, because that means it's only transit by, but they decide to home in, never leave you. You invited in, or an uninvited guest, they home in. It's not the true nature of your mind, but you let it sit in, home in, and with this mental impurities embedded with greed-headed delusion, and it sneak in with your thoughts, piggyback with that. So that's why you need to catch a thought as it arises, so that you clear your mind back to the luminous mind, the true nature of the mind again. That's why we meditate to gain that point. And then he described how things work through our sixth sense sphere, eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and mind. The first five spheres, eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, that we perceive things through our eyes, ear, nose, tongue, and body for sight, sound, smell, taste, touch. And then internally, the mind itself is through thought, through the thoughts. Even though the mind doesn't come out, doesn't have perceiving organ outside, but all the other five would convey the message to the mind. Okay, the first five would convey the message. So even though it doesn't come out, it sit there on the throne for the report from the other five sense spheres. The specific pathway has been worked out in anatomy. We know that for a couple hundred years now. Like your eyes, you perceive through your eye, through your lens, and back to the retina in the back of your eyeball. And then it went through the optic nerve in the back of your eye, crisscross, called optic chiasma. Half of it goes to the opposite side, the other half stay on the same side, and crisscross and go into the optic tract in the back, in the middle and back part of the brain, and in the visual cortex, visual center, in the back of your head, in the occiput. So that's, for example, of the visual pathway. There's anatomy that's been worked out. That's, if you can answer that in medical school, you get 100%. If you miss that, you fail. But in Buddhism, that's not enough. You need another part called mind or consciousness, or heart. Heart is like idiom, like your heart and mind. This basically means mind. It's synonymous. And normally, when it's not sitting doing nothing, like you're in deep sleep, or when you're not exposed to any stimulant, it's a repository consciousness called alaya vinyana, or it's the consciousness bank, sitting there doing nothing, or in sometimes they name it bhavangacita, resting mind, bhavangacita, like in deep sleep, without dream. And then when you're your body and your sixth sense sphere is being activated. It will activate this repository consciousness. Repository consciousness will be activated, became activated mind, become eye consciousness that we meditated on earlier. And you hear the car pass by, consciousness got activated. It's gone now. See that? You hear the car pass already. You know it's already passed. It's done that job. Temporary existence. Nasal consciousness, when you smell, tongue consciousness with the taste, body consciousness with your touch, or when you move your body. What about the mind? They have mental consciousness too. It has been singled out. Like I said, it sit there in your brain, but it didn't need to come out, but everyone report to it. And you generate thoughts to that. It's called vichit. Vichit, that means vijnana. Vichit, vijnana. Interactive mind. Vichit, vijnana. So it needs 18 elements. So six of the five spheres plus the mind, that makes six. 6 subjects, 6 objects. 6 objects that you saw, you're the subject that see. But you need consciousness, another 6 to correlate. Otherwise, it's just, dead people still have eyes. Maybe you can see the vision, but nothing to interpret because the consciousness is gone, right? Immediately die people. So neuroscience has been worked out about this past 50 years or so, when they have this functional MRI scan, maybe a little bit less than 50 years. We also know from the brain activity that brain process 400 billion bits per second of information, yet we only use 2,000 bits per second of them. It's sort of similar to when you take a raw type of photo, I don't know how they call the file, but it turns to JPEG. You only need certain area if it's important. You can shrink the number a lot, but you still see the content. Might not be very detailed, but that's the important part. To turn the raw picture into a JPEG that you can pass on to other friend instead of get stuck on the mail. Can transfer the big file of the raw photo. That's the important part. Maybe just only the center of the picture. So the brain also we possess many types of memory. So brain processes them in a different way. And this is how we perceive it, perceptual processing. I told you about how the visual cortex, that's where the redness on the top left there is showing. In the back of your brain, the occiput. But now that's what we learned. I learned in medical school 60 years ago. But now they found on a functional MRI scan, there's also interpretation at the superior temporal gyrus. You see like a little big worm in the middle on the top right. Okay, superior temporal gyrus. That's how it interpret there. That's perceptual processing, which is perceptual memory focuses on physical features. Okay, just like based on shape, color, movement, then you know it's a bird. It doesn't move, maybe flowers or plant. They only use 0.5 to 1% of the brain energy. But the problem came when we have conceptual memory, emphasizes meaning. Means not only now we come to the lower three picture, it interprets in the inferior frontal cortex, like that frontal cortex is about your thinking. So after interpret on the top right, it go to the bottom three, give the value. Middle, inferior frontal gyrus and middle temporal gyrus and inferior temporal gyrus. Give the value now. Not after determine what it is, they give a value and indulge in it. Something like, I love this lotus flowers, instead of seeing just a piece of look like plant or whatever. You want to acquire more, so you can bring it to give to the monks or pay respect to the Buddha with his lotus flower. But mindfulness self-awareness can stop the process there between the top panel, not going to the lower panel. It will stop the process there. But in general, we never train ourselves with mindfulness self-awareness, so we keep indulging with the lower part, which is deal with the conceptual processing, conceptual memory. See, we lack of this mindfulness awareness. So that needs training to mind. So Buddhism cracked the code that physically you can train yourself, but you can get nowhere. You get physical fitness, like the Olympians. But you need to crack the mental process so that you get to perfection of life through perfection of your mind. This has been working out at least 2,300 years ago. Describe the thought process in Abhidharma. 17th step of Vichita. It worked like this when I show you repository consciousness. When you're in deep sleep, resting is like you're at the bottom of the sawtooth, and when your mind got activated through sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, and thoughts, it activates like a little sawtooth appearance. Once you're done with that sound or the sight, it drops back to the Bhavankachita, resting mind again. So it's like you go like this all the time, this sawtooth appearance, activate and back to the resting. So from the previous moment, the past Bhavanga, from the point of resting being something is coming to picture, or you hear some noise, like a car passing by. From past Bhavanga become vibrating. It prompts you, the third one. Arrest Bhavanga. The noise, you hear the tire track in the rain, whatever. You can tell it's rain there, So then become, it's through the five sense sphere. This one is true. You hear the car pass by, tire track, and then you heard it through your ears. It's through sota, tavarajita, the ear consciousness. Eye, ear, nose, tongue, and body, the five sense door. But that's through the ears. Or you see sight, it's through your eyes. And then it's through, this is pancha vijnana citta, sense consciousness kick in. Like I said, you only perceive things is not good enough. You need corresponding specific consciousness, like eye consciousness when you see flowers, or ear consciousness when you hear noise like car pass by. It has to be ear consciousness to come out, to work on that. You can't use your eye consciousness to perceive the hearing, or you can't use your ear consciousness to see neither. It has to be specific. So the receiving consciousness called Sampatichana, like I show you, the back part of your head, visual cortex, visual center, convey to the mid part of your brain. That's what this is doing. It conveying, transmit back to the mid part of the brain. Sampatichana. I'll show you later on this slide. Another slide on that. And then investigate consciousness, activity. This is activity yet. It's not committing anything. Investigate what it is, flowers. And then determining consciousness. Say, oh, it's a lotus. It's still activities, not karma. Karma is the action. And then indulge like 7 steps of action or karma. It's like a stick shift. You drive stick shift before? Yeah, they start with first and second gear, right? To engage so that you pump in, putting power, engage in going forward. First and second is third one, you're pumping, and the fourth one is when you're in the full speed, and fifth one is like you're cruising. And then you drop back when you're done with it. Drop back to the maybe third or second gear and then first gear again, and then disengage. So there's 7 steps by nature when you indulge in it. And then the last 2 is to registering, memorize it. Oh, it's a good food today. We ate. Wonderful. We have to come back for that. Oh, this beautiful flower. We have to buy some more. So a person in a state of profound sleep, that's Bhavangacita, like you're in deep sleep, no dream. That's a basic, like a bottom of the sawtooth, like basic nature of the mind without stimulation. No activity at all. So the flow of Bhavanga, the flow of Bhavana is interrupted when object enter the mind. So when activate, the sawtooth got activated into the sawtooth pattern, that a wave came up. And then the Bhavanga consciousness vibrates for one thought moment and pass away, like a blip of thoughts there. So there's 17 steps. This has been worked out 2,300 years ago. And see how it matches. In a particular thought process, there arise various thought moments, which may be karma, like you commit that 7-step shavanacita, impulsion that you commit, it's become, or kiriya, like the 7 and 8, it's just, you only investigate and determining, you're not committing anything. There's no action yet. It's called kiriya, pure activity. And before that, it's a vipaka, that's a pathway, you can't do anything. So this is just to put the two together, the knowledge of functional MRI scan and what has been described in Buddhism. So like you see a picture of lotus, a lily, water lily, it's through your eyes. Go to the lens, go to the retina, it flip upside down to the lens. And then it convey into rhodopsin, it transmit into, your retina would convert into chemical, electrochemical rhodopsin, and travel to the nerve, optic nerve, optic tract, optic chiasma, and optic tract in the back part of the brain there. Go to the visual cortex and register there. As an image, not interpreted yet. Had to be conveyed to the mid part of the brain, like I showed you earlier. So this is called Atita Pawang, from resting, being prompt Pankachalana, something activates, like you heard the noise of car pass by, it activates. And then Pankupachetha, it prompts you, it got seized there. And then it go to the eyes or the ear, whatever organ that you perceive with. And then Chakutawara Vachanachit, through the eyes, the eye system, the visual pathway. And then see that going the back part of your brain, visual cortex there. Chakku Vinyan, so the eye consciousness come in and to play with. It has to convey to the mid part of the brain, called Sampatichana Chitta. It convey there, and then interpret it, called Santirana Chitta, right here. Interpret, and through shape, body, color, movement. No, it's not a bird, it's a flower. It's lotus flower. Santirana Chitta. And then it gives the value, determining, that investigate and then determine Votapana Chitta, determining the value and so on. Oh, good, I want to get more to use it to pay respect to the Buddha. And then it start indulging. That's the top one, is still perceptual processing, is still kriya, activity. But now action start when you indulge in it. 7, see, from the shifting first gear, second gear, third gear, fourth, with the fifth gear, and then drop down to 6 and 7, back to the basic activity, and then it memorize it, Tatalampana Chitta, 2 of them, 2 mind movements, 17 mind movements. So you already indulge in there, so you end up completing the thought process, 17 steps of Viti Chitta. Or the karma, you already commit karma because you indulge in it. Karma, volition is karma. You commit in 3 ways: action, speech, or thoughts. You already commit at least through the thoughts. And then next thing you know, it drives you to buy more water lily or lotus. So volition or intention is karma. Karma simply means action. Okay, so everything rooted in intention of volition, a little bit more technical term. Volition is karma, that's the word of the Buddha. So on functional MRI scan, they also found interesting things. When you see things on the top panel, there are 2 big panels, but the top row of the top panel and the top row is on the second panel, the lower panel. They deal with actual seeing. It's ultimate. But the lower panel is virtual. You only think about it. It lit up the brain, same area. So, see, when you see, first one, that was top row, was just a side example. It's about places. You see that in the middle temporal gyrus, in the lower part, inferior temporal gyrus. It lit up. See, the top row of that is the actual seeing. But only think about it, also lit up. Say, suppose you think about vacationing in Hawaii, or somewhere in Europe, or somewhere in Arizona, or Bryce Canyon, when you're actually there on the top row. But now you come back a year later, you thought about it, it lit up same place, almost as bright. How about that? Scary. Because that's how you're sitting here doing nothing. You thought about your foe. You got mad right away. You already Maybe he already died last year. Who knows? But you thought of it. You got upset already. So the first top is the ultimate, but the lower panel, the lower part is virtual. It's scary because by thinking about it, it activates the mind, and then it activates the mind. You indulge in it with chavana, the 7 mind moment. Okay, in the same way, like you got mad about your friend that owed you money, never returned you what he borrowed, maybe 5 years ago, and then someone told you, like later on, I say, he's already dead, so you forgive him, but you already got mad for a whole week for nothing. Okay, because you indulge in it, and then you memorize again. I'll get even with him when I see him tomorrow or something. But then when you get there, say, he passed away last year. You forgive him. So you're doing nothing there, wasting your time and energy. That's what we did. Absent-minded, default network, daydreaming, especially when you do nothing, like on the lunch break or coffee break, your wandering mind. Researchers report that default network of regions active when the brain is unoccupied likely cause daydreams while performing mundane tasks like sitting doing nothing. See what happened? You see the girl pouring sugar, overflowing the cup, because she didn't pay attention, lack of mindful awareness. She's indulging her thoughts. See, that's how the mind works. We're not actually seeing anything, just through thoughts only. It's called brain dark energy. It shows on the right lower panel. Very active, even like the brain's idling. But in the dark energy, like the area of prefrontal cortex, anterior cingulate gyrus, and so on, and several areas that will be lit up. It's not like a dark without activity. Even at doing nothing, it had this brain dark energy. It's been worked out at Wash U here in St. Louis by Dr. Reschley in 2006, and been confirmed by, I think, the Harvard group a year later. Different studies show that. So we waste 60 to 80% of our brain energy in that way. That's what equate to what the Buddha said, like a house builder. You saw that it reflects in your mind. Basically, it represents tanha, or craving, your thought conditioning, your imaginary phantom ego, through your thoughts, embedded greater delusion, which is tanha, or craving. It generates your ego there. And the Buddha exclaimed when he became enlightened, he saw his ego disappear. He saw that ego is selfless in nature. So the mind's true nature of the mind is selfless. It's not self. Or anatta. So through the rounds of many births I roam, without reward, without rest, seeking the house builder. So this craving. Painful is birth again and again. House builder, I have found you. We shall build no more houses. All your rafter broken, the rich poor destroy. Gone to the unconditioned nirvana, the mind. See, his mind reached nirvana, unconditioned state. Has come to the end of craving. That means end of suffering as well. No more craving. Craving is the second noble truth. It's the cause of suffering that need to be eradicated. When you eradicate craving, suffering disappears, because you don't need to. Suffering, the first noble truth, is to be comprehended. So you know what the problem is, and then you find the cause and get rid of the cause. That's what he did. He got rid of craving, which is the cause of suffering. So craving is to be eradicated, which he did. So the suffering ended. For First Noble Truth, suffering ended. That he comprehended, like symptoms of the patient, he found a cause and give the right treatment. That's from Dhammapada 11. This is how the Buddha described how your mind worked 2,600 years ago. It's through the four foundations of mindfulness. And the left panel here, shown here, is how neuroscientists interpret things nowadays. Like you see at the bottom, external world, like you see iPhone, iPad, or house or car, and you label as yours through your brain, the blue part, but it had a network that generate the pink part called I tag. This is how the Buddha described 2,600 years ago in the four foundations of mind. That's what we meditated on earlier, 2,600 years ago. It's the way to reverse engineer to see things how it works. Through your six sense spheres, which include your eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and mind. Contact with sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, and thoughts, with the corresponding consciousness, with the contact and result in feeling. Feeling is fixed. It's like a pathway. You can't do anything. You either feel with neutral feeling, pleasant or unpleasant feeling, that's all. Then you perceive as such, pure perception. Next one, you have biased perception. That's the problem game. Biased perception, sanya chetana. I mean, you have your ego built in now. Sanya chetana, biased perception. Say, oh, I like this. I need more of this. You become tanha, craving. After that, vitakka, disturbing thought, and vichara, obsessive thoughts. Next thing you know, another pair of shoes came home with you, because you don't really need, you only have 10 pairs. The 11th pair came by. That's a feedback loop I told you that I will tell you about. That's when you're sitting at the visual cortex in the back part of your brain. Now feedback to midbrain, 5 times stronger than the incoming pathway. So the feedback loop is very strong. It keeps generating self-image, or called I tag. I tag here, self-image hologram. Self-image hologram, the biased perception. So neuroscientist, head of neurology at U of Iowa, Professor Antonio Damasio, he moved to USC, later on become director of the huge brain center and consciousness there. But when he was at U of Iowa, he stated, in parallel with generating mental patterns for an object, the brain also generates a sense of self in the act of knowing. So he thought it's a parallel. Like when you see an iPhone, you also say, oh, this is my iPhone, not yours. So you generate a sense of self already, same time. But the Buddha said, no, it's sequential. As you see on the right side, it's not parallel, it's sequential. See? That gives us hope, sequential. The Buddha said, we generate mental pattern for the object. Then the brain generates a sense of self in the act of knowing. You saw an iPhone and said, next thing you say, that's my iPhone, not yours. See, that's the bias perception that built in there. That's why there's hope, because you can stop the process. Because if you let it go passively, become craving, and become second noble truth. Craving for sensual desire, liking or disliking. but you can slice it off, stop it through mindful awareness. That's what we meditate on. That's why I follow these 4 foundations of mindfulness, to know the mechanism, how it come about, this mindful awareness. Then you can stop the process, become the end of suffering, the third noble truth. You stop the process. Like I mentioned, a life form consists of 5 parts, 5 aggregates, 5 group existence of form, including your body, sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, and thoughts included, result in feeling, perception, thought formations, and consciousness. This form a person, a life form. It's a view of the Buddha. A person consists of the 5 aspects. So body and mind. The top one is the form, is the body. The mind is the consciousness, plus the middle 3, mental activities. The mental activities here. Form does, the mind doesn't have any form, formless. You cannot see it, but you can track them down through feeling, perception, thought formation. That's what we meditate on. Vedana, sanya, sankhara, feeling, perception, thought formation, mental activity. Cetasika, they call it cetasika. But when you come in contact with subject and object, become endearing, because interpreting as endearing and pleasing, what happens? You cling to it. You with the biased perception, unless you can stop it with mindful awareness. When you do that, you perceive things actively with perceptual processing, active and neutral. It's pure perception. Sanya Bodhisattva, pure perception. Stop there. No more following pathway. It stopped there. It ended at pure perception. No more craving. Because you know it's a pure contact and pure feeling. But if you let it go passively, you go into conceptual processing instead of perceptual processing. You run the whole pathway. You sanjat chetana, you have bias, perceive biasly. So you end up with sankhara, passive, and bias. You end up with what? Craving, arise and sustain. But if you stop it with mindful awareness, then there's no self, no suffering. Stop it at pure perception, sanya parisati, end of stress, end of suffering. So there's a good story about a Buddha's time. This is called Paya. He rushed to see the Buddha, came from another town, caught up with the Buddha in the market. He begged the Buddha 3 times while he was doing alms round. First 2 times the Buddha said, "You're not ready. This is not the time to teach." He wanted him to slow down and slow his mind down. And the 3rd time he begged for it. He said, "Life could be short, please teach me." And then he said, Paya, his name. You should learn to understand as follows. To see, just see. To hear, just hear. To perceive, just perceive. To realize, just realize. Perceive what? Perceive in what you see through. Perceive through your eyes, ear, nose, tongue, body, and mind. And realize simply that it's just plain sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, and thoughts, unbiasedly, pure perception. Paya, you should learn to understand as such. And then he went on to emphasize, Paya, whenever you see, just see, hear, just hear. Perceive, just perceive. Or realize, just realize. At such moment, the so-called you will no longer exist, no ego. Because it doesn't build in the biased perception, pure perception. That's the 4th noble truth that he wants you to practice, to catch it with mindful awareness. Whenever there's no you, at such moment, you will neither exists in this realm, in the front there, or the next realm, on the top there, or between those realms. No matter where you go, there's no you, no ego. And that's the end of suffering. When there's no you, your mind, even your mind is selfless. That's the end of suffering. And he understood thoroughly. He attained full enlightenment in front of the Buddha through those simple teachings. And that's the end of suffering. The third noble truth, nirvana.